Well, let's move to Black Hawk County, Iowa. My friend Kamyar Shine has been doing incredible work connecting farmers and growers, farmers and buyers in this area. He started out in 1998, 10 years ago, with 3 places, 1 restaurant, 1 nursing home, and 1 college, buying about $100,000 worth of local food products. In those last 10 years, he sat down with a lot of farmers and a lot of buyers and said, wouldn't you like to trade with each other instead of going to a distant commodity market? He's now up to $2.2 million worth of sales from 25 institutions. The chart that he has showing the increase of the institutions buying food and the increase in sales is a pretty strong alternative to the economics we saw before. He had to spend 6 or 7 years getting people acquainted with the idea, building the foundation, building the working relationships, to really let people know this trade was a good thing. Sales more than doubled from 2006 to 2007 to $2.2 million worth of sales. One of the heroes in Cedar Falls, Iowa is Brian, who runs a fairly normal-looking Mexican restaurant called Rudy's Tacos, but he features food from Iowa farms, tomatoes from Iowa farms that are raised year-round hydroponically under glass. 71% of his food is sourced within Iowa year-round. Every table has placard showing exactly how much he spends on what products from local farmers. All these are local purchases, and he totals the amount down. So every time you eat there, you know exactly how much you're contributing to the local economy. Brian and I did an interview about a year and a half ago, and he said, I could never go back to buying off the commodity truck because I have more customers now. They're so much happier with the food. They say it tastes better. And they really are thrilled to be coming into a place that supports their neighbors who are farming. And he said, if I took that special thing off my menu, nobody would have any reason to come to this restaurant. They could go anywhere else and get the same experience. So this is really what keeps me as a viable business. If I went back, I'd basically lose my firm. So it's a very significant testimonial to why sustainable businesses and the kind of food businesses you see happening at Blue Mountain Station could be really incredibly important. An economist at Iowa State named David Swenson did a study in the same area, A county area of Iowa, and he asked the question, what would be the economic impact if the farmers in this area for 3 months of the year sold Iowa-raised fruit and vegetables to their neighbors, enough that everybody in the region could eat 5 fruits and vegetables raised by Iowa farms every day, which is what we're supposed to eat to have the healthiest outcomes. It's really a good way of reducing cancer problems, and it helps relieve a lot of health issues to have that kind of fruit and vegetable consumption. What he found was that simple act for only 3 months out of the year, when the harvest was fresh, would produce 475 new jobs and $6.3 million of labor income. That's a fairly simple step, and it compares really well, I think, with a lot of the larger industries that many rural counties try to attract. In fact, local and state governments in this country spend $50 billion a year trying to incent local development, which often doesn't actually produce returns as good as this kind of development would do. I visited a farm in Georgia run by 4 20-something-year-old farm managers working incredibly hard, 4.5-acre piece of lot, selling $320,000 worth of product a year. Compare that with the returns from some of the crops we routinely farm at our farmland. And I spoke with the manager, and I said, you know, are you sure this is the right number? She said, well, actually, we have a lot to learn. We're just getting started. We've been doing this for 2 or 3 years. But we really know what we're doing. We think we can get up to $100,000 an acre of income. Organic sales are rising in the very same places direct sales are increasing, so that's, again, a good sign of health in at least these parts of the United States. One of the heroes for me is the cooperative called Organic Valley, which in 1988 was a group of 8 disgruntled farmers in a living room in southwest Wisconsin who said, this economy is not working for any of us, what are we going to do? And they sat down together and planned a future of selling organic products through cooperatives. This is their corporate headquarters in a town of 432 people, Lafarge, Wisconsin. It has a full-time organic chef, a brand new building. They just built a brand new sales warehouse about 20 miles away so they can store products for sale around the region. This is their sales chart. And again, 10 years of forming relationships, Actually, there was a lot of pushback. Sometimes the farmers didn't think Organic Valley was treating them well, and they had big fights about how do we make this work cooperatively in a good way. But once those things were in order, once the market realized the quality they were selling, sales shot up. A $532 million company 20 years later with 1,400 member farmers in cooperative structure. Again, it's a real sign of what can be done by thinking differently, stepping outside the commodity system that's not rewarding us, and creating some different alternatives for ourselves. Woodbury County, Iowa, around Sioux City, has become a leader in organic production in the country. A very enterprising rural developer named Rob Marquesi has basically worked in Woodbury to create several opportunities for his neighbors. Okay, well, we got two of them there. The first policy is the county committed itself to buying local organic food whenever it was available at comparable prices from within 150 miles of the county courthouse. The second element of the strategy was to offer a property tax break, investment for us in having a future for ourselves. Now, just a couple more examples and I will stop talking and we can have a little conversation. Will Allen of Growing Power in Milwaukee has done an incredible job. He's a former professional basketball player who bought a greenhouse when he stopped playing basketball. He's also grew up in a farm, and he owns a couple and manages some farms in the Milwaukee area. He specializes in raising earthworms in this farm, and I'm going to try to show you those. This is his hands digging into a pile of earthworms and compost. The earthworms eat the compost. The waste from the earthworms gets dried and pelletized into a commercial fertilizer for Wisconsin farmers. So you have African American inner city youth raising earthworms to produce a fertilizer product that farmers can apply in their fields at a commercial scale. I would not have predicted that business 20 years ago. They also get to work in this greenhouse where there are green plants inside a tank of water, tilapia fish inside the tank that nibble at the plants. The waste from the fish get put in the water gets put on plants to help them grow with fertilizer from the fish. And you have inner city African American and Hmong and Latino kids managing this process, learning environmental cycles, making $200,000 a year of income by selling food that they've raised to a CSA farm, to farmers markets, and to local restaurants. Again, this is some kind of business that's so creative, I just wouldn't have imagined it could happen a long time ago. And my final example is Greens Grow Gardens in Philadelphia. Mary and her husband were chefs in rural New Jersey about 25 years ago. And they just sort of felt like they'd made some money and had a good life, but they wanted to do something for inner city people. So they moved to inner city Philadelphia, to a really quite bombed out area of the city. And the city was so happy to have somebody try to do something positive. The city gave them a $1 lease for 99 years on a one acre piece of ground. An old factory site, brownfield, contamination in the soil, cement over some of that contamination. They put new cement down, they put some new soil down, they kind of built up above the contamination and started raising organic products on their farm. As you see, these lettuce, these greens are being grown in hydroponically, and I think these are raised beds with a cement cap to keep the pollution out. They have hydroponic production on raised hydroponic trays. You can see the city just across the barbed wire fence there. These photos get changed by the computer system, sorry about that. This is a cold storage facility they built from a plan in the USDA guidebook. It's about a 10 by 10 framed building using studs and insulation, cooled by a single window air conditioner that's jimmied with so it keeps running all the time. Keeps the room at 37 degrees year round, even in 100-degree Philadelphia hot summers. This is not difficult or expensive technology, but it works to store food. And because of this storage area and another one that's not cooled, Mary and her husband can actually broker food from 75 local farms in the area to local restaurants in Philadelphia. On this 1 acre parcel of ground, they sell $650,000 worth of products, both their own and these farmers. It's a terrific economic engine in a place that has very little opportunity like that. And they also produce a very nice place for people to gather and buy perennials and some food items and to learn more about farming in the inner city.